patriotism. It inspires passionate debate, and it's worn like a badge of honor with good reason, because it means love and devotion for one's country. But what really makes up this country of ours? It's the people. To love America is to love all Americans. This year, patriotism shouldn't just be about pride of country. It should be about love. Love beyond age, sexuality, disability, race, religion, and other labels. Because love has no labels.
The following program was provided by an independent producer, solely responsible for its content. The views, information, or opinions expressed during this program series are solely those of the host and guests appearing on the program and do not necessarily represent those of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Brainstorm, bringing great minds and ideas together, exploring a wide variety of opportunities, achieving academic excellence, using the latest technology, government's impact, preparing for 21st century careers, parenting and health issues, topics shaping tomorrow. Brainstorm with Lisa Williver, bringing great minds and ideas together.
Hi, welcome to Brainstorm. I'm Lisa Williver, and today we're talking about robotics in the classroom. Before we begin, let's learn a little bit more about our topic. We all know change is inevitable, especially in school. We have progressed from slates to chalkboards to whiteboards and now smartboards. But advances aren't limited to the boards kids use. Today, kids aren't just reading about robots, they are working with them right there in their classrooms and gaining the hands-on experience to not just live in the future, but to create it. Joining me today, I have two educators who are very excited to talk about robotics, Dawn Hiltner and Josh Langenberger. Both of you, I'd like to welcome you to the show.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
Thanks for having us.
So let's talk about robots. I guess every generation looks at them differently. I know if you're young, they're very cool and they're things that are actually in your life. But if you're, our age and older, it's kind of like from TV shows and movies and sci-fi. So what are robots exactly today? They're not just the robots, are they?
Well, robots today, when we look at robotic engineering, they can come in many forms. You know, we see traditionally a robot that, as you said, looks like a person and walks through a science fiction movie. Today, robotics or automation come in lots of different forms. We have the self-driving cars today, and so there are lots of different ways to integrate both programming and engineering together to form these robotic models that are helping us solve the problems of today.
Okay, now when did you first get involved? Because this is something you do as part of your career, right? You teach robotics and...
Well, robotics for us is an extracurricular activity for students. So a few years ago, a young student named Josh, my own namesake, came to me and said, I'd really like to do robotics. And when we looked around our own district, we didn't have the resources that were available. I was able to secure some funding and bring those robots into our classroom. From that, we were able to launch an exciting program of robotics and engineering together and draw in those students who had an interest and specifically a passion for that.
Now, hey Dawn, your experience in education, what are the challenges? Is it mostly financial for schools, or is there still that, a lot of leadership is older and hasn't been exposed to the possibilities and how hands-on? Do you think it's a mindset and economics, or mostly economics?
I think mostly economics, but I also think that there's some apprehension because technology changes so often that some who may not be as knowledgeable as Josh would feel that, well, if we bought all of this stuff and we invested in all of these materials, and then 2 years from now they're obsolete, then how do we explain that? What do we do from there? So I think sometimes there's an apprehension due to the finances, the lack of knowledge, and also finding time in the school day. I mean, like as Josh said, he does it as an extracurricular activity. It takes time, and it takes a lot of space to engage the students, a lot of resources, a lot of support. You know, you need to have the right amount of adults in the room to help the kids solve all of their problems.
That's actually a great point. If you have had a classroom with 25 children, as one teacher, I imagine it would be very difficult to do hands-on robotics the way you probably would like to do it.
Absolutely, it is difficult. Fortunately, our group varies in size, that we have in our own class from 10 to as many as 25 students. Obviously, when we're talking about more students, it becomes a little bit more challenging. And like Dawn had said, in terms of risk-taking, I didn't really know much about robotics per se. It was a student who inspired me, who said, you know, I would like this opportunity, and if he was willing to take that opportunity or take that risk and say, I want to try something new, I as an educator have to be a model for that, and I have to be willing to take that same risk and go out and say, okay, let me see what I can do with this. I'll give it a try. We'll work and learn it together. And that's really where we've come with the students. The students and I share this new passion for robotics. And as we talk about passion, there's some students who are interested in the programming aspect, some in the engineering, some in the leadership, others in communication. And it's wonderful to see how the groups themselves, rather than define roles, how they really evolve into this wonderful group that work cooperatively.
So you're really not just a model for the students, you're a model for other teachers as far as taking risks and trying something new, kind of going outside of your comfort zone.
Absolutely. And I think today, especially in the field of education, with the transformations occurring so quickly, like you had mentioned, that you have to be ready to take that risk. You know?
I'm happy we have teachers who are willing to go outside the comfort zone, because it is, you know, sometimes, especially if you specialize, if you're the math teacher, the English teacher, you're not thinking of something scientific per se to just dive right into.
Right.
So the kids really are a lot of inspiration. What's the best age to get them to start thinking? I mean, is there a minimum age, or can you start talking to them about it and pointing things out in their everyday life?
Well, I think solving problems, you can begin as early.
Say that again.
Solving problems.
Getting the kids involved, right?
Right, because I think when you think of whether someday you're going to be programming some algorithm for a robotic device, the algorithm itself is nothing more than a set of directions. So when we start to have students really think about how something as simple as making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, you know, what are the steps involved? Little do they know that later that will translate to some kind of algorithm that may help automate something that helps a disabled individual. There are just so many great opportunities within the field of robotics. But starting from the beginning.
So I guess with parents, one of the things we need to focus on is getting them to be the teachers, and I say that in quotation marks because, you know, they are the parents and we're the teachers, but really we're all teaching and parenting these kids together. You know, teachers have them for so many hours. Parents can teach at home with the problem solving. Do you think that's a message we need to give to the parents, that they can help their kids by turning things into games, or how do we fix this?
I think, you know, we've come along in a society where we're too quick to do things for our children. You know, sometimes it's just easier to take care of it and do it and be done with it, because we're all overscheduled, overworked,
exhausted,
overtired. We're hungry, you know. And so it doesn't, you know, you get home from work, you pick the kids up, now you have to make dinner. You know, that's a great learning experience, putting together a dinner with your children, teaching them how to set the table, teaching them how to, you know, bread chicken, or how to peel a potato, or load a dishwasher. You know, how do you get things to fit the right way? But a lot of times we skip that because it's just easier to do it ourselves and you get working on your homework, let's get this over with. When really all of those types of skills are what's going to be needed, not just to be successful in school, but in life, because a lot of the, you know, the technology that we use today might not even, you know, might be obsolete by the time our kids graduate. So, you know, we're really teaching them the skills to be able to cope and to be able to understand. And I think when Josh was talking about all of the different pieces of the team of the robotics, the communications piece, the leadership piece, that you're really teaching them that there's a role for everyone.
And right down to marketing and production. I mean, there are so many pieces to this, because it's not just one little item and that's the end of it.
Really, absolutely.
Really limitless, right?
It takes a holistic approach. You really have to look at every aspect of it, and there's a place for every single student. And what's wonderful about some of the things we've seen in robotics is that students find their place, rather than as an educator defining their role. Because I can't tell them whether they're going to be excellent at programming, but within the dynamics of the group itself, which is what we're seeing in the workplace today, where individuals with passion are grouped together to solve a problem. So we're helping students find their passion. And robotics is a great tool to help them do that.
So now, I'm just very curious. I have one daughter and I have two sons. Are girls going toward this as frequently as boys? Because, you know, you don't want to stereotype, but you know, a lot of times boys like the robotic and technical things. Are girls coming along? Because I hope they're seeing the possibility for themselves.
Well, in my experience, there haven't been as many females interested in technology, but I really think it comes down to an educator modeling the opportunities and basically providing support for females to enter into this field. I've begun to see a transition, as I'm also the advisor for the Technology Student Association, and we have the same type of deficit in that we don't have as many females in the group, and we have supported female enrollment in that program in getting them in leadership positions to serve as models. So my goal as an educator really is to bring in a few girls and then have them serve as a model. They really inspire each other.
Well, I was just about to say that, you know, this is a problem that we need to work on, but you kind of just started solving it already with the modeling. And it's even something, you know, maybe schools could bring in female engineers and robotics people that could do assemblies, or, you know, let the kids see, like, these are women who are doing it. Because I think that's sometimes the most powerful example. Do you see that when you're in a classroom or you're visiting schools?
Yes, well, you know, I work with one group that does a lot of mentoring, and one of the things we do with the girls is we take them to some of the area colleges that have STEAM conferences.
Oh, okay.
And they get to meet, like yesterday I had the pleasure of meeting with a woman who has her PhD in chemistry. She works for a pharmaceutical company, and she works on you know, community health. And she's one of the women in science who speaks with the girls. But we try to expose them, and I think a lot of it is just lack of exposure. They don't always see people who look like them in those fields, particularly students of color. So that's something that we're really focused on, is really helping them also see that, look, you know, this is a great opportunity for you to not only, you know, have a job that you can be passionate about, where you can really make a difference, but also where you can earn a good living for yourself, and where you can, you know, you can really have a long and successful career. Because I tell kids, look, you're going to have to work for about 50 years
at least.
So find something you love. You know, I mean, that's something that's really important.
Well, and I think sometimes the way it sounds is that it's not grade dependent. You know, you may not be the best math or science student, but you could find your niche in here, the creative end, or, you know, some other area. So I think besides, you know, just in general for all kids, children of color, for female students, but letting kids know that this isn't something that is, you know, an exclusive club, that it's only for the children in the honor society or the kids who are on the honor roll. That there's, like, I love what you said, there's a place for everybody.
There's a place for everyone. Really equalizing the opportunity, I think, is key, whether it's robotics or a steam tank type competition, is giving kids the opportunity and exposure to real life experiences.
And I love that it's inclusive, that it is not, because I think that's what kind of turns people off sometimes. You hear something, it sounds really hard, and kids will back off of it, and parents won't push them because they don't want to push them into something that they think might be over their head. When we come back, I'm going to talk about competitions, because I know my sons have gone to some of them and they were very interesting. So when we come back, we'll talk about competitions and more on robotics in the classroom. We'll be back in just a moment with more Brainstorm.
They told me a bottle couldn't dream, that I would never become a superhero. but I learned how to fly. Just to come back in a new disguise and be the hero that I've always wanted to be.
Look at you. You're at the top of your game. You're unstoppable. Nothing can throw you off track. Wait, is that your car? Uh-oh. Yeah, I saw that coming. That will throw you off track. You're looking at around 10 grand in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Let's try this again. Smart move. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Welcome back to Brainstorm. I'm Lisa Williver, and I'm joined by Dawn Hiltner and Josh Langenberger, and we are talking about robotics in the classroom. Now, before the break, you started to mention competitions, and I know my sons have gone to some of the competitions to observe. So tell me about competitions that involve robotics.
Well, when we talk about robotics, programming, engineering, so it's really a broad field. In terms of solving problems, whether it's our students are involved in a local competition such as a steam tank challenge or a national competition such as TEAMS, which is the test of engineering aptitude, mathematics, and science, it really begins with a problem. Once the students have hurdled the problems, then they have to engineer through robotics, circuitry. We had one of our groups that were the national champions this year for TEAMS.
National champions?
National champions,
Nice.
middle school students this year. Wonderful, very diverse group, both young ladies and young men, representing very well. One of the problems they had to solve was traffic. Congestion.
I hope they came up with something good.
They came up with this incredible idea. They performed some mathematical equations and found out that some of the greatest congestion occurs where two lanes merge together.
Okay.
So like they have those stop signs that flash, they designed a sign that would tell motorists when it was okay to merge, or when there was caution, or when they really couldn't merge. So it was amazing that they were able to demonstrate the technology behind that.
So you know our viewers in California, Boston, and New York City
yes.
are like, yes. Okay, keep going, kids.
You know, they really did an amazing job. It all starts with a problem, as does every issue. It starts with a problem.
And we have no shortage of problems, right?
And presenting the students the opportunity to present this idea in a very business-like setting.
I think that's important too, the whole economy of it, because
Yes.
robots are fun, but what can you do with them afterwards? It's nice if you can have it do something cool, but can you monetize that? Can you make it for the for the markets?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, the whole challenge that the students were involved in, they talk about the finances, the management.
That's fantastic.
What organizations are you going to work with in order to make this idea? Because we're not just looking at the beginning of an idea. Ultimately, they want to see a follow-through of that idea. How do you plan to educate others on this? So there is a whole marketing plan involved, and each of those take different pieces.
So what about some of the types of robots they've made? Because I'm from the Jetsons generation. I watched George Jetson and his wife, and so I have my own mind in my mind what robots look like and what they do. My favorite robot right now is Roomba.
Okay.
Because I just love to push a button and watch Roomba go and do the cleaning. And I even bought one for my 91-year-old grandmother, who I thought might not really respond well. She's an adopter. She loves this thing. So tell me some of the other useful robots that kids are coming up with.
Well, every year the students are able to compete in a national competition in which every year the challenge is different.
Okay.
This challenge involves students designing a robot that would be able to release a lever that would release a series of discs or loops, and they had to be able to grab those objects and lift them up and place them on different posts, and they would receive different scores for it. So it's not only just designing the robots to navigate, but like you said with the Roomba, there is an automated piece in which students have to program that robot to go out and perform that task autonomously. And their goal is to score as many points as they possibly can. And so while these tasks seem relatively basic or simple in lifting up an object and placing it here, or tagging an object here, or moving it over there, if we think about what robots do, those are all the tasks that we're asking them to do.
Yeah.
So at a middle school level, we're able to offer, let's master some of our basic steps. And so it looks like a vehicle. It looks like a Roomba, only...
and those steps can be applied to so many different activities that the robots need to do.
So imagine like a Roomba that also has the lifting, so the Roomba's driving
Keep
by.
talking.
It's driving by, and it has a drink on top of it, and it lifts that drink up to you.
Getting warmer.
And then continues vacuuming on. So those are the kinds of different types of robotics or engineering that we're seeing the kids doing today.
I think that's fantastic.
And like you said with your grandmother, a lot of, the population is aging, and the goal is always to be able to live comfortably and safely in your home. And a lot of these applications, are things that can actually help us achieve that with a lot of our older.
And she's so open-minded. She's in her 90s. My dad's in his early 70s. He would never want one. He would be like, no, I don't know what that's going to do. Where she was very open-minded. She named it. And I'll call her and she's like, oh, Hardy's vacuuming right now. And I'm like, go Hardy. I feel like when you're 90, you shouldn't have to vacuum anymore.
Oh, no.
But, it's not just even the vacuum. You think about cars. Not only are cars on, the robots on the assembly line making the cars.
Right.
But, when my children started driving, they bought cars that had that eyesight. So if the car in front of them slows down, they'll slow down.
Right.
And if they start to go out of their lane, it'll bring them back. So it's kind of like having me yelling at them, but quieter. So that's a robot. I mean, I assume that's robotic.
It's an application of technology, and it's automating, and the robotics is just a bridge to automating the tasks that we do that we no longer need to do because we have engineering or robotics to be able to take care of those for us.
Well, speaking of products, I was looking and I found some very cool products that seem like they're available now. I don't know how refined they are at this point, but there's GrillBot, which is like Roomba.
Okay.
There is a machine that will fold your clothes for you.
I saw that.
Did you see that?
I not only it steams and folds your clothes.
If you
I
need
saw
steam
that.
or perfume or like a nice fresh scent
You
on
hang it like on a hanger, and it
Yeah,
closes,
and it goes
and then it drops out the bottom. That's wonderful.
Yeah, there's a robot chef. It was a little weird. It was just arms that kind of come out of your ceiling and do it, but they do everything. Wow. So, a pillow, which I thought was a pillow, but it's actually facial recognition to tell you when to take your pills.
Oh,
for
yeah,
seniors, that
That's
could be
great.
huge.
Yeah.
Personal assistant. This one seemed like it's kind of boxed in a little. The bratwurst. It was a robot for just bratwurst. I guess you got to really like it.
Yeah.
I think my husband would like this. It's Kobe. It's a Roomba for your driveway and your lawn. So it does grass, leaves, and snow.
That I've heard of. Yeah.
A bed maker. A window cleaner. So it seems like all the tasks that we may not want to do anymore, little by little, they're probably in their infancy now, but maybe 10, 15 years from now, you wake up and bed just gets made. And
Absolutely. Well, there's a fast food chain out in the Midwest. I believe they have a pilot store in which they don't have any employees. The entire process is automated, from you ordering to you picking up the food. It's set out there for you.
Wow. So now if those careers are going, which people get afraid of
Right.
because they feel that, people get afraid robots will replace humans, what are the careers in robotics instead of making the burger? What is it, making the robots and programming the robots?
Well, I think what we see, the future type jobs are in the innovation. What the robots are always doing what we're asking them to do.
Say that again. They don't think, right? So people don't need to be afraid of them?
No. Their program is still
Well,
controlled.
we're still in control.
Yes, we're
Okay.
still in control. And so what we need to be today is the innovators of tomorrow. So we have them completing tasks that we need today. But what are we going to need them to do tomorrow? And so the innovation comes through opportunities in education to really provide students the opportunity to inspire, innovate, really inspiration.
So when it comes to careers, say you have a child who's in 8th grade and they have an interest in this. What kind of actual careers do we tell them that they could look into? Is it the engineering? Is it
I really think the first thing
computer programming?
You need to find their passion.
Okay.
What are they most interested in? And then focus that into the fields in which would be most applicable to that. And the reason that I say that is that I think that even higher education is struggling because the transition in different occupations is occurring so quickly that even higher education is saying, we don't have teachers to teach these. So now we're combining existing positions, and the expectation is that you'll just figure it out. And so
I hate that expectation.
It is troubling. But what are we asking kids to do at a lower level of education? We're asking them to innovate. We're asking them to solve problems. So again, we go back to the opportunity through a robotics type program to say, here we go. We're ready to solve problems. We don't know what those problems, so we give them the tools to be able to be successful tomorrow rather than like you said, the technology today, we don't know what that technology will look like.
It's basically an exciting time.
It absolutely is an exciting time.
And it's not something that's as definite and clear as when our parents were growing up,
Right.
but that's kind of what makes it exciting.
It does, and you should approach it as exciting rather than being apprehensive or nervous, which I think a lot of people tend to do. It's just an exciting opportunity that's coming up.
All right, speaking of exciting opportunities, are you ready to play Brainstorm?
Absolutely.
Okay, so don't get too excited.
I am very excited.
Doesn't get more exciting than a Brainstorm. So here's our game.
Okay.
We have 8 statements about robotics and technology in the classroom. If they're good, we're going to keep them. And in the tradition of brainstorming, if they're not accurate or if they're not true, you get to ball them up and make a basket.
Okay.
No backboard. So you have to be creative
All
on how
right.
you're getting that in there. You ready?
Yes.
Number 1, robotics aren't just part of the future, they are a part of today.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that
save
is
that
a
one.
good one. Number 2, robots are really just toys.
No.
Here you go. You want the honors? I'm going to give you a little slant here. Good job.
Nice job.
Good.
2 points.
Okay. Nationwide, they're like, yay. All right. Idea 3, technology is putting people out of work.
No.
No, I think it's
Because it's
redefining,
transitioning, right?
redefining their roles.
Okay, Dawn,
You can throw that one in.
your turn.
Thank you.
No pressure. All right.
There you go.
All right, we're
Tie ball
tied.
game, folks. Number 4, many medical procedures are performed with robots.
True.
Yes.
We often
True.
forget about that.
Yep.
Okay. Number 5, robotics is strictly for scientists.
No.
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 It's for everyone.
Yep. There's a role for everyone.
And that's actually really good news
That's
that it is
important for people to
for
understand.
everyone, and boys, girls,
And they're
people of all
accessible to
colors.
everyone. They truly are.
And even your academic level. I love that part, that it's
Right.
not, you're not limited by your academic abilities.
Well, I mean, even if you don't want to go to college and you want to go into a lot of the trades, you're still going to need to understand robotics.
In some
Well,
cases,
even like-
even more so.
so.
And
Yes.
even people, fabricators. I'm always
Yes.
amazed when I see what
Oh,
fabricators
yes.
can do. And you know,
Right.
you need that nice, beautiful case around whatever your robot's doing. Number 6, robotics have been impacting manufacturing for years.
That's very much true.
And again, I think
Yes.
we hear robots, we don't always remember that in our factories, this has been going on for a very long
Absolutely.
time.
Absolutely.
Number 7, technology education and robotics should begin in high school.
No.
No, that's a year earlier.
There you go.
Oh, is it my
I got
turn?
the
It's
last
your
one.
turn. Yeah, tie it
2 to
up.
1.
All right.
Good.
All right.
And the last one, technology clubs are a great way to explore robotics.
Absolutely. We're going to
definitely.
save that one.
All right, we are going to save that one. It's a tie game. That's excellent. I want to thank both of you for being on the show.
Thank you,
Parents,
Lisa.
expose your kids to all these wonderful things, so many opportunities. Dawn and Josh, thank you for being here today, and we hope to see you on the next episode of Brainstorm.
Marie, you have prediabetes.
Prediabetes? I don't have time to eat right or exercise. I'm a busy mom.
Oh, you're a busy mom.
Yeah.
This is great news. Busy moms never get prediabetes.
Wait, what?
Let me just... Yeah, this is all the people at risk for prediabetes, and way over here, busy moms. No?
Everybody has a dream. Mine was to see the ocean. And with a little help, I made it.
Me and my boy Matt had it good. He had catnip that was off the hook. But one day, he brings a girl home, and she's allergic to cats. Every sneeze was a nail in my coffin. Now I'm in a shelter. It's decent, but they don't even have Wi-Fi.